Look, folks, I've dealt with a lot of characters in my life. I've met senators who could talk your ear into early retirement, governors who couldn't find their own office without a map, and a volunteer choir humming directions. But let me tell you, nobody, and I mean nobody, has ever operated in the theatrical chaos of Donald Hurricane Indoor Voice Trump. That is an AI robot speech by Joe Biden, and I think it's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
From high atop the battlements of Castle Curmudgeon, we're on this Remembrance Day Sunday or Veterans Day weekend, depending on which country you're from. We bend our knees and doff our hats in honor of the service and the sacrifice of all the men who gave us our inheritance of freedom, and for those few precious centenarian World War II veterans who remain alive among us, please know you are the reason why this reporter wears this 48-star flag on his shoulder. And please be assured that for as long as this program exists, and as long as this reporter has breath in his lungs, your exploits and your example shall never be forgotten by your succeeding generations. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. Welcome to the Blast Radius. Thanks ever so much for joining us tonight. Coming up on the Worst People in the Whole Wide World weekly update, the Muslim overlords of the city of Londonistan grudgingly permit the King of England to hold the traditional Remembrance Day ceremony. Hakeem Jeffries boldly declares that the Democrats are totally going to own the midterm elections next year. New York City elects a communist-adjacent Muslim mayor and then asks, how the hell did we just elect a communist-adjacent Muslim mayor? Kim Kardashian, fresh on the heels of publicly demonstrating that she is dumb enough to be an Apollo denier, publicly demonstrates that she is also too dumb to pass the California bar exam. Are these two things related? Spoiler alert, yes, they probably are. Germans report that they are deathly afraid to venture out in public in their own country. But first, and on a perhaps not unrelated note, the son of the co-founder of Hamas has a warning for the woke liberal denizens of the Western world's biggest metropolises. While we are on that subject, is it metropolises or metropoli? I feel like it should be metropoli, but the AI robot machine informs me it's actually metropolises, and I've had just about all I can take of AI robot machines for 1 week. And if you want me to elaborate on why that is, ask me for details during the main body of the show, because I do, in fact, have lots of details. More details, in fact, than you could ever want. My co-host knows what I'm talking about. In fact, you just heard one of the quotes just now. I started off by asking ChatGPT to give me an angry Biden speech because I wanted to see how closely it would match up with the angry Biden speech that the real Joe Biden gave the other day. but that's not important now. The important thing is that the son of the co-founder of Hamas says we should stop being a bunch of goddamn fools, and he is not wrong. Mossab Hassan Youssef, son of Sheikh Hassan Youssef, says the election of Zohran Mamdani as mayor of New York City suggests more than just a local shift. It signals a coordinated takeover of the city government by an alliance of radical woke socialists and stealth Islamic networks, to which he refers as the Red-Green Alliance. Mr. Youssef says, quote, Mamdani identifies as a socialist, a communist rebranded while embracing Islamist ideology. These twin ideologies represent catastrophic failures wherever they have been implemented, end quote. And he ain't wrong. It's been a point of some curiosity for quite some time how two philosophies that seem so utterly incompatible on just about every level can add up to a marriage of convenience that results in a victory in a mayoral race in the biggest city in the United States. Is there anything about woke leftism that aligns with Muslim fundamentalism? Not from where this reporter is sitting, but I guess that doesn't matter. It seems to me like a good time to have noticed this problem might have been prior to the primary, when the New York City Democrats had every opportunity to survey the landscape and say, gosh, it looks like we've got one candidate who's a 33-year-old Muslim Marxist immigrant Nepo baby, and another candidate who is the disgraced former governor that killed everybody's parents and then got thrown out of office for playing grab ass with all of his female staffers. Mightn't it behoove us as the leaders of the party to insert a third candidate who's less terrible than the other two? But alas, I guess that sort of thinking is just too much to ask from the New York City Democrat Party. And now they get to have a Marxist mayor who is such an ignorant dumbass, he doesn't even realize it when he is directly quoting Karl Marx after just claiming that he's not a Marxist. So best of luck, New York City. I'm sure it's all going to work out great. And on that note, it is time to check in with our very good friends across the pond in the Islamic Republic of Britannistan, where the Islamic authorities in the capital city were nice enough to take a one-weekend pause in their normal pro-Hamas demonstrations so that King Charles III can pretend he is really still their head of state and to go lay a wreath at the cenotaph in honor of the British dead in the 2 world wars. And this takes place during a week when, if you watched Curmudgeon's Corner on Thursday, and of course you did, you already know that Alec Penstone, probably the most highly decorated Royal Navy veteran from the War of 1939 to 45 who remains living, went on the ITV morning show and said nothing that he and his generation did back then really matters because their children and their grandchildren have cocked everything up so very badly since then. The king, meanwhile, fresh off a week in which he declared that his little brother is no longer a duke or an earl or a baron or a knight, nor even a prince, was heard to wonder out loud, when I said I wanted to be the defender of all the faiths and not just the faith of which I am supposed to be the supreme head, I felt like the consequences weren't going to be quite as immediate as they have been. It's almost like I was just talking out my ass back then and not thinking the thing through all the way. Blast it. These things were so much easier back when Mummy was still alive. Meanwhile, back in Washington, with the government shut down, now nearly old enough that it can get a driver's license, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries put on his happy face, which looks exactly the same as his miserable face, and declared on all of the Sunday morning shows today that the Democrats are totally going to win the majority in next year's midterm elections. And Hakeem? May I call you Hakeem? Or should I call you Sombrero Man? Doesn't matter. Either way, your prognostication of a victory relies on a fairly big assumption, and it's the assumption that there is not going to be a new census in 2026. As you know, President Trump is on the record as being very desirous of conducting a new census in 2026, and I think you know why that is. It's because you guys, the Democrats, packed millions of illegal aliens into the country, and then you got them settled in the big Democrat-controlled cities, then you got them counted in the census, and boom, then you had a fake artificial cushion of around 25 safe Democrat seats in the House of Representatives. But as you also know, around 1.75 million illegal aliens have self-deported since the start of this year, and another several 100,000 have been forcibly removed by federal immigration authorities. So what does the arithmetic tell us? The arithmetic tells us if there's a new census in 2026, there will be upwards of 2 million illegal aliens no longer being counted in it. That means 4 to 5 of your artificially generated safe Democrat House seats are no longer going to exist. I know you guys think you had a good week. You won a few governorships that you were supposed to win. You won a referendum to gerrymander California above and beyond the extent to which it was already gerrymandered within an inch of its natural-born life. And you know what? Let's briefly digress on that topic, shall we? The governor of California, a creature named Gavin Newsom, who grew up as a poor black kid hustling on the mean streets of Napa Valley, says we needed to do Prop 50 in order to protect democracy against Trump something something. Like it matters anyway. The point being, what does the arithmetic tell us? The arithmetic tells us 6.2 million Californians voted for Donald Trump last year. It also tells us California has more Trump voters in it than any other state in the union. 40% of the voters in the state. So what I'm looking for from you, Gavin, is an explanation for how we are defending democracy by rigging the congressional districts so that Democrats hold 95% of the House seats in a state where 40% of the population voted for the other guy. And if we had a functioning press, maybe you might have to answer that question, but we don't, so you won't. Just like you'll never be confronted with any questions about how your claims of being a poor working class black kid who grew up eating Wonder Bread and mac and cheese hustling in these streets comport with the actual reality of your life story, in which you came of age in one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in North America as the son of an oil company lawyer, going to all the most exclusive private schools, being gifted a brand new BMW on your 16th birthday, owning your own winery when you were 25. I mean, who didn't own their own winery when they were 25? Am I right? But maybe it was just an innocent oversight. Maybe when you talked about eating Wonder Bread and mac and cheese, you just innocently forgot to include the part where you had to search through the whole mansion looking for one of the Latina domestic servants to come prepare it for you. Maria? Guadalupe? You guys aren't supposed to both take smoke breaks at the same time. Didn't Father tell you the rules? Are we the only country in the history of the world where rich people have to pretend they grew up poor because poverty somehow confers more moral credibility? Yes. Yes, we are. Does that make a damn bit of sense? No, it does not. But it doesn't matter anyway, because you guys better wish on every lucky star you have got that your party apparatchik judges succeed in preventing a new census from being taken next year, because if that census happens, you guys are so incredibly screwed. You will never have a majority ever again. And best of luck with trying to stop it, because what does the letter of the law say? It says there has to be a census every 10 years, but is there any statutory prohibition on taking a census more often than that? There is not. So again, very best of luck. Meanwhile, did you know Kim Kardashian's been studying law for the last 6 years in hopes of passing the California bar exam? Yeah, me either. But she's just made her first attempt, and she reports that she failed spectacularly, and who could have guessed? I mean, far be it for this reporter to question the intellectual acumen of a woman who first gained public notoriety because her dad was O.J. Simpson's personal lawyer and she appeared in a sex tape with some rapper. It seems quaint somehow, almost, that 20 years ago you could actually become a celebrity by making a sex tape and then leaking it on purpose. And not only become a celebrity in your own right, but propel your whole stupid idiot family to public notoriety. I guess, if nothing else, she was ahead of her time in that regard. Why does Kim Kardashian want to be an attorney at law? Unclear. Maybe she is embarrassed to have become rich and famous despite having no evident skills or talents whatsoever. Or alternatively, maybe she watched She-Hulk Attorney at Law and now she thinks passing the bar exam means you can turn into a giant green-skinned rage monster whenever you want. And then the giant green-skinned rage monster can make a sex tape with some rapper, and that will buy you and your whole family another 20 years of unwarranted celebrity. But no, apparently our girl Kim, who is sufficiently stupid and credulous to have publicly come out last week as an Apollo denier, really thinks she is going to be a lawyer. And she freely admits to making very heavy use of ChatGPT for her legal studies. Now look, I'm just a simple man. I've got no post-nominal letters after my name, no fancy book learning of which to speak. However, I do feel very strongly that if you are sufficiently stupid and credulous to say in public that Apollo 11 never happened, you are probably not ideally suited to a career as a practicing attorney. And more importantly, if ChatGPT's capabilities are sufficiently advanced now that it can actually drag someone as stupid as Kim Kardashian across the finish line to successfully passing the bar exam, I feel like we should give the law degree to the robot and not the middle-aged reality TV star who probably reads the instructions on the shampoo bottle when she is washing her hair. Now that I have given you all of that to ponder, I think I am just about finished with my exertions here. This has been the WPWWWU for the 9th of November, 2025. Many thanks for your kind attention, and more importantly, if you served, thank you for your service. I now transmit you into the custody of my distinguished colleague, your illustrious co-host, the one and only, your friend and mine, Mr. Caucasian Sasquatch.
Tactical nuke incoming!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Blast Radius. And tonight, we are going to be checking out Fantastic Four's new movie. We're going to discuss what we like, what we don't like, what we do. It's going to be fun. You might be a little surprised on the angle I'm going to take with this one. I also have an interesting case. I don't remember what city it's out of, but it involves the use of flock cameras as public records, which means officially you'll be able to FOIA any particular day for any particular vehicles that travel down any particular road that's covered by these cameras. Except you can't, because as soon as that was passed, the cities discontinued their flock system. And welcome to the chat, Powdered Dusty viewers. I appreciate y'all showing up. Come in, like, comment, subscribe, play with the poll, and I'll drop Captain Curmudgeon's link in just a second. Y'all can go talk to him if you want. Also, if things get bogged down and boring, I hear tell that there are some very interesting quotes from the AI robot voice of Joe Biden to talk to. So we're going to take a look at all of this. How's that?
And you heard tell correctly on that front, my friend, because I have detailed files, as the man once said.
Absolutely.
Didn't I run you through the whole genesis of so going back to the beginning, square one of the story. I haven't used ChatGPT for any sort of creative endeavor until back when we were back when we were doing Harmony Unleashed. I think what did we do?
Wow.
Like half a dozen episodes of Harmony Unleashed. Haven't used it since then. It's been well over a year, I think. But ChatGPT since then has become much more sure of itself and much more willing to take creative flights of fancy, let's say. So the other day, Joe Biden shows up out of nowhere. I guess he has no other source of income except he has to go around and collect speech fees. He's got no security clearance anymore, so he's useless to Hunter for the things Hunter used to use him for. So, and it puts the Democrats in an interesting spot because he's an ex-president. They can't really tell him not to do that, but their party certainly doesn't gain any benefit from Joe Biden running around opening his face hole and making words come out. But as I'm reading the excerpts from this actual real life Joe Biden speech, I thought, you know what? If I went to ChatGPT and typed in "give me an angry Joe Biden speech," I expect it would sound almost exactly like this real life Joe Biden speech. And I did that, and it spit out an angry Joe Biden speech, and it did sound very much like the real life Joe Biden speech. And then it offered to take me further down several different rabbit holes, which I don't remember it ever doing before. So I actually got it to go down first I got it to do satirical roast speech. Then I got it to do chaotic rant speech. Then I got it to do surrealist meltdown rant. And then finally, I got it to do escalated surrealist meltdown. And the best thing I can say in summing it all up is that every one of these selections featured something, at least one thing, that absolutely convincingly sounds like Joe Biden might have really said it. So that's why I brought it for your pleasure tonight, ladies and gentlemen, just in case we need it.
Absolutely amazing. So where would you like to start on this smorgasbord of chicanery?
I pass the controls to you, good sir.
Okay, so we're going to talk about flock cameras. Who here knows what flock cameras are?
I just had to have it explained to me, so don't feel bad if you don't.
All right. So in major metropolitan areas, mostly where there are major thoroughfares, freeways, toll roads, that kind of stuff, the municipalities will set up these cameras in these little trailers that have little solar things that feed all of the power and everything. And you'll see them parked on the side of the road, sometimes in the breakdown lane, sometimes at the end of a merge or right before a merge. And for the past few years, these cameras have been taking pictures of the interior of people's cars, utilizing ultraviolet flashes and special cameras to see through windshields and to limit glare. And for years, the First Amendment community and the Fourth Amendment community have both basically been just screaming to the high heavens that this was an invasion of privacy.
Which it very much is.
Which I think we can all agree is. Recently, there's been a court case that's been brought up where someone attempted to FOIA some of the records on these cameras. And the municipality basically said, no, those are private government records. It was appealed. The appellate court said, no, they're public records. They appealed, and the circuit court came down on them being public records. At which point in time, every single municipality that uses them decommissioned them immediately, stating that for the public to have access to these records would be an invasion of privacy, while not saying the quiet part out loud of the government making a database from these records is also a
In other words, you can peer into our vehicles, but we can't see the results of your peering, which seems perfectly fair.
Right. And they were trying, and as I understand it, and I might be a little off base on this, and somebody else might be able to explain it better. The legal defense that the states were standing on was the idea of a plain view doctrine of if you could walk around the car and see what was going on, then there's no difference to filming it, and there's no difference from the city using flock cameras. But the difference is you can FOIA body cams, you can FOIA every other aspect of the government documenting your activities, but you can't FOIA a flock camera, which just took a picture of you while you was riding down the road.
When you
Why
were
not?
when you were not suspected of any criminal act, which is the part that jumps out at me, because if you were just a law-abiding citizen going about your business in your private vehicle on a public roadway, the inside of your vehicle is supposed to be basically indistinguishable from your personal domicile, and photographing its interior is kind of a big no-no that cannot be reconciled with the Fourth Amendment when you put it that way.
Which the Fourth Amendment, to be perfectly clear, only protects you from the government doing this, does not protect you from an average citizen walking along and just taking a picture inside your car. That
Right.
does fall within plain view doctrine quite easily. They were trying to utilize the government as an entity in this consideration, as if it was like John down the street carrying his camera out to the parking lot and just filming cars. Whereas in reality, this is an entire revenue generating system that's been put together specifically to profit off of absent-minded drivers without utilizing manpower to do so.
And I wonder, and I don't know, maybe you do, but I wonder if there's been an attempt to get around that by having the cameras not directly operated by the government and having them operated by a third party private contractor.
So it's interesting that you bring that up because part of this case actually stood, I don't remember which district this landed in, but it actually stood on the fact that it was a government contracted subcontractor who was providing the cameras and a different subcontractor that was doing the mediation and moderation of the cameras, and yet a third contractor that was actually sending the envelopes and all the stuff. And so there's no way any of this could be used against you unless you've actually broken the law.
That's just as slippery and multi-tiered as I was hoping it wasn't.
So what it ended up coming down on is, and I hate to say this because it's going to spur out some of the folks in the chat, is contract law. At no point in time have you absolved the Fourth Amendment in any individual case, and implied consent only goes so far. Therefore, you have to fall back on the whole FOIA point. It's either a record produced by the government, even if by a subcontractor, or it's not. And if it's not, then how is it that we can't access government taken footage, right?
Yes, and how is it that everybody who was operating these cameras suddenly all at the same time decided to stop operating them? I can't chalk that up to a coincidence. I'm just not that trusting.
Well, it begs the question of what were they using it for that they don't want you to find out about?
That is exactly the question that is begged. You are correct.
Clearly, they're utilizing it in some way that the FOIA documentation would reveal if granted enough access to it. And so rather than grant access to it, they've pulled the program almost entirely, which I think says more than actually anything that's been said about it.
I think you're absolutely right on that. And I think also if it was only being used for purposes that we might call honorable or above board, I think they wouldn't have several layers of private contractor middlemen involved in the process. That seems expressly designed to make it easier to conceal potentially nefarious behavior on the part of the government itself.
Okay, so we're in fairly tight agreement on this point. We kind of come down the same way we did about the masks on ICE agents and SWAT. Masks are utilitarian. They have a function. Part of that function is to obscure the face, but also to protect unprotected skin. If the individual is in an environment where a mask is utilized as a utilitarian factor, I have no issue with a mask as long as their badge number is plainly available on their uniform. Using it specifically to hide one's identity, which would be basically like patrolling a park in downtown LA or whatever, that's a little different in my opinion. As long as the badge number and identification of this individual is available to be redressed to the government by the individual, I don't have a break or make or break issue with it, but I don't like it. Right.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. And it's a difficult tightrope to walk, but you have to walk it because you understand the motivation why the agents and the agencies want to conceal the identity because you've got crazy people who are going to dox you and show up and try to attack your family and do whatever it is that crazy people do. But also we are a civilized country. We are the United States of America. And part of that responsibility of being that country is that our law enforcement personnel don't conduct their official duties while being totally unidentifiable. And you have to figure out some kind of best practice for reconciling the one thing with the other.
All right. Excellent. There's been a lot of neat stuff going on in the chat. Let's take a dig on some of that and see where we sent. First, I'm gonna back up and see who was here first. Obviously, wait, did Scotty Waddles not show up?
Is Scotty Waddles not here?
That can't be right. We're giving him his
That can't
fucking
be right.
platinum trophy. We're giving him his
We
platinum
can't.
trophy.
Jesus Christ, we can't do the show if Scotty Waddles isn't
Is he
here.
okay? Should we send somebody to go check on him? Do we need a wellness check? I'm worried.
He actually left a very detailed comment on one of my videos yesterday.
Oh, good.
Which was actually a more detailed comment than "Hey Now," which was a refreshing change of pace. I thought, and it was actually a very very thoughtful, very conscientious comment, which I would like to thank him for if he was here.
Kissy May gets the gold. I need some silver. Smoking Auditor gets the silver. And the chairman gets the bronze. Welcome in. I appreciate y'all coming through. We got Leah in the
Likewise.
chat.
Hello, everyone. Glad to have you.
Missed someone there. Who was it? The Smoking Auditor. I've already said it. Queen Bird's in chat. Good to see you. Appreciate you coming through. We got John Denicola. Ardent Party.
Hi, John. Hi, Queen.
He's always welcome.
Always.
We got $10 from Kissy May. Do the thing.
Oh, thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Kissy May. You are kinder than I could ever deserve. I will try making myself worthy of that kind gift.
My bad. I tapped the freaking button. Oops.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
We got to work on that. Where were we at? Darlene,
have you noticed how many people are using that clip now? I feel like we were on the leading edge of using that clip that every single buddy uses now.
Well, I clipped it right after the actual Justice Warrior started using it, but I didn't realize that until almost 2 weeks later when I come across one of his videos with it up there, and I was like, oh, really? And his clip was actually better than my clip. So it was more complete than the one I could find. And so I actually went and poached his actual donation clip for this one.
I think we're still entitled to say that we were on the front edge of that particular trend. More power to us. Yes. Early adopters, absolutely.
We got Sebastian Cristobal Valdez. Welcome in. Appreciate you coming through. Vanta Black, Hurricane Perro, Orthodox Guy, Tootie Bug. Good to see all of y'all. Usual suspects. We got Floozy B in the chat. Good to see you.
Yeah, we've got the usual suspects and some unusual suspects. Thank you all for coming.
We got some trippy casts over here. That's the clown from outer space. Homeboy he's out there, bro. It's always funny when somebody takes him seriously because He's literally a clown.
From outer space.
He's from somewhere. I don't know exactly where. I know there's Snark and Sass also. Good to see you, girl. Freakazoid Sasquatch. Yeah, I got that. I got that thing. I need to put it in my I got literally have a Freakazoid.
Well played,
Sasquatch.
Darlene. Chef kiss.
Will do. Alawine, good to see you. Alfie, do your thing for your super sticker.
Thank you very much indeed for the super chat or super sticker. Which one is it? Super sticker. Thank you for the super sticker. I will endeavor throughout the rest of this episode to make myself worthy of your very kind gift. Thank you again very much.
Excellent job. You're an amazing student. It's amazing. We're gonna have you grifting in no time. Blue
Boom.
Unicorn in the chat. Good to see you. Appreciate you coming through. He also made a couple of pretty good points in chat, but they're traveling a little too fast. We got Cam the King. Welcome in, brother. Who else? All right, no, that's everybody. Cool. If you haven't chatted in chat and you want to shout out, just drop it over there and we'll bring it up or point it out, or we might even go to your channel and laugh at you a while.
Absolutely. We love engagement.
Homeboy says I'm a diabetic clown who found his spaceship in the woods while looking for Fago. All right.
Maybe 3i Atlas is on its way to come take him home.
Oh dear God, please no. We need him. We need him. He is the perfect foil for serious people. It is hard to beat a clown.
And boy, the usual suspects are still just trying really hard to beat the alien hypothesis into the ground with 3i Atlas. I wish they would stop. I wish Avi Loeb would stop. He's such a credible guy. I mean, he's probably the closest thing we have to a Carl Sagan in this day and age. I wish he would stop being the It's Aliens guy, because he's running the risk of just being that idiot from the Ancient Aliens show. The guy they make all the memes about. It's aliens.
The one with the hair.
Please stop, Avi. Just please stop.
So, Alwine has a question. It's like, can't the video stuff just do a FOIA request? Well, that was the point, was that no. Up until recently, it had been determined by the different municipalities, all of them, apparently, that you can't FOIA flight camera footage, even though it is government-generated data that is directly in line with FOIA requests and exactly what it was designed to let you do. And the fact that they immediately took down the, there you go. We got you another membership, brother. Thank you, Smoking Auditor. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Smoking Auditor. Very kind of you. Appreciate it very much.
And when it was determined that, yes, it is a public record, the cities themselves and some states, Washington specifically, I think that's what Blue Unicorn said a little while ago, decided to discontinue the use of the entire system rather than allow individuals to have access to public records that may or may not be about them. And they quoted a privacy issue for the reason.
And I suppose the next question to ask is, do we have any specific confirmed cases where this footage was used to secure a conviction?
No, because wait, hold on. A conviction for traffic infringement, yes. Tons of footage. Because that's
not for anything happening inside the vehicle, which, as we said before, is traditionally viewed by the law as the same as your personal domicile.
Actually,
unless you are suspected of some criminal act that they have pulled you over for suspicion of committing.
The only reason we found out about flight cameras was because of a handful of cases involving kidnappings and body movement where flight camera was used as part of the evidence and therefore became available for FOIA action. So yes, there are cases where it's been used as a convictable material, as material evidence in cases of locating vehicles going places to and from murders and robberies and stuff like that.
And if it's being used to locate kidnapped children, then I'm all in favor of it being used. But why all the secrecy surrounding the FOIA requests, and why shut the whole program down simultaneously in every jurisdiction is the part that I have a problem with.
Right, I'm gonna move to another topic immediately after this, but it actually says more that they won't share it than it does that they collect it.
Yes, I absolutely. Yep.
All right, so we have the Fantastic Four movie, and what was the other thing? Oh, the AI speeches. Which, if you want to get into that, we can do
Yeah,
a
you
couple
you want me
days.
to run through the first one, and then
Sure.
I can run through the ascending degrees of absurdity. I already made you read out one of the lines in the open. All right, here's the first angry Biden speech that it gave me. Folks, listen here. I've had it up to the rafters with the way things are going. I'm looking around and it feels like somebody swapped out the national to do list with a stack of sticky notes that say shrug on every page. You can't run a country on shrugs, folks. I've been around long enough to know when something's broken, and I'm telling you, there's a whole pile of gears on the floor right now rattling like they're auditioning for a percussion section. And every time we try to pick one up, somebody pops out of the woodwork yelling, "Don't touch that. It's fine." No, it's not fine. If it were fine, I wouldn't be up here talking like a smoke alarm with opinions. We've got work to do, real work. And I'm tired of folks acting like we can just put the whole country on autopilot while everybody argues about whose turn it is to hold the map. So hear me loud and clear. We are going to roll up our sleeves. We're going to plug the leaks. We're going to straighten the picture frames, and we're going to get the big machine humming again, because this place doesn't run on wishful thinking. It runs on people who show up. And if someone doesn't want to show up, fine, step aside. There's a long line of people behind you who are ready to grab the tools and get on with it. That's it. That's the message. Let's get moving. My name's Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
That's classic. That actually sounds like young Joe Biden. Actually, like
It kind of does. It's really quite convincing. I think I would be convinced by it. If you told me that was an actual early period Joe Biden speech, I don't think I would have any reason to doubt its veracity, which is kind of amazing.
I wouldn't question it. Give me one more. Give me what's the next one? How absurd is it?
The next escalation is to fictional satirical roast speech. I already had you read out the first line from that, but here is the remainder. And this is in reference to Trump, obviously, because I said I wanted more direct Trump insults in the next iteration of what it gave me. Every time he opens his mouth, it's like someone shook a magic 8-ball full of nonsense and it decided to read its results out loud. You ask a simple question, you get a word salad buffet so chaotic the croutons file for workers' comp. And the bragging, good grief, if confidence had a seatbelt, he'd have snapped it years ago. Folks, the man treats facts like optional side quests. He strolls past them, waves politely, heads straight toward whatever shiny storyline popped into his head that morning. Half the time, he's rewriting reality like he misplaced the original draft. And don't get me started on responsibility. He drops it faster than a hot plate at a picnic full of toddlers. Every mess he makes, suddenly it's somebody else's problem, somebody else's fault, somebody else's cosmic alignment. I'm standing here trying to steer the ship, and he's in the background yelling that the ocean is fake news. So yeah, I'm fired up. I'm tired of the circus tent being dragged over the country every time he opens up his mouth. Enough with the melodrama vortex. Enough with the reruns. Let's get back to doing the actual work instead of refereeing a one-man talent show. End quote.
That is hardcore, dude. That's pretty good. Although I doubt he could say croutons without stuttering.
Oh, did you ever see his teleprompter screen? Did you ever see a picture of him giving a speech from behind? He had the biggest teleprompter screen in world history. The
Yep.
letters were like a foot long, not even exaggerate, and he still struggled to read the words.
Well, I mean, that's what happens whenever you elect a post-life candidate.
It is. There is definitely a downside in nominating an actual corpse to be your party's candidate for president.
I made a statement right after the election that I always knew we'd end by zombie apocalypse, but I never thought we'd elect one president. But what do you know?
Yeah, let's go to something else, and then I'll do the chaotic rant speech next.
So This part of the show, ladies and gentlemen, is where we dig into a particular bit of pop culture, typically recent, sometimes historical, or has some bearing on the topics. Period. Um, that's not the case today. We both independently kind of decided to watch Fantastic Four, and so he was like, "Hey, have you seen Fantastic Four?" And I was like, "No, it comes out today, right?" Or something like that. And so I sat down and watched it. He's watched it. And now we're going to compare notes, and we're going
Yeah,
to
we
do it.
figured since it's on streaming now, we might as well watch it and do one of our brutal review segments that we do.
I have to admit it. It's not going to be nearly as brutal as I usually get because I kind of liked it.
Everybody in the room that I was watching it with agreed that it was better than Superman. Admittedly,
Right.
that's probably a low bar to have cleared, but that's just what I have to report.
All right. So one of our primary complaints about, or one of my primary complaints about Superman was the dislocation of technological capability in the time frame in which it was set. Superman being set what, mid 80s at the very earliest, late 80s at the very latest, had a 80s feel, an 80s flair. It looked like something straight out of one of the first two Superman movies out there. I expected Richard Pryor to walk around the corner at any second, and at the same time there was some kind of a juxtaposition of severely advanced technology available in the general marketplace that had zero effect on society in general, right? And that just struck me as being a very false thing, right? It didn't feel organic to me. In this movie, that is even more expansive. Um, you've got some pre-war Fallout era uh, uh, decor. Like everything in it is radial. It's all Fibonacci curves. It's all, there is not a right angle in the entire freaking picture except for the one that's on the back of the Silver Surfer board.
Right. Not a single right angle anywhere. And you know what movie I guarantee you the whoever designed the visual aesthetic of this movie watched? Remember Help, the second Beatles movie? That
Right.
the visual aesthetic of that picture would slot in perfectly with this Fantastic Four movie.
Excellent. I did like the effects. The effects were very nice, with the exception of Galacticus coming into or landing and walking into New York Harbor. Galactus is ginormous. He is. I'll get into power levels in a minute, and I'm willing to have that argument. But he's 150, 200 feet tall. He's 1,000 feet tall if he chooses to be. He is what is referred to as an elder outsider. This individual was around before the universe began, and he was a threat. And he will be around after the universe ends and will still be a threat because his power level is beyond anything that is in this universe.
And I think all we're doing in this picture is setting him up to be the one of the big bads in the next couple of Avengers pictures, right? I mean, we know
Well,
that just from the mid credits scene where Robert Downey Jr. shows up. Apparently, they say it was Robert Downey Jr. They didn't show his face. I don't know why they needed it to be Robert Downey Jr., but apparently it was Robert Downey Jr. And the scene actually was directed by the Russo brothers. I don't know why you need to go to such extremes, but apparently they did because they like spending money.
true. And especially if you paid Robert Downey Jr. for a cameo that he wasn't even in, that would blow my mind.
Oh my God,
Right.
I know. A cameo where you don't even see his face. You don't even see a speck of his skin. He just sits, you see him from behind and he interacts with a little child and holds his mask. And just, I wonder, I would so much love to know how much he got paid for that one day of work.
Even if it was that, I still think
Yeah,
it's
if it even was that.
so. The various costumes, and this is the beginning of the movie thing, and I really kind of dig it because it's retro comic book accurate, with the exception of his bulk and size, right?
Right.
Because this is an issue, like you said, with Reed Richards. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Richard Reed.
Reed Richards, you got it.
Reed Richards. It's really hard to be Stretch Armstrong in a movie because it's things that just are difficult to depict like it would be in a comic book. And so it generally speaking doesn't translate over well.
Never.
In this case, whoever it was that was doing it was very sedate in their stretchy scenes. Nothing like the comic books, but at the same time, you could kind of see if someone was describing the comic, it might come across the way the comic did. Or rather, if they were describing this movie, it might come across as the comic depicted it. So, like, and nowhere in here does he grab both sides of a road and trip Galactus or anything like that.
Right, or any of the completely over the top, ridiculous, absurd things that we saw Mr. Fantastic do in the first two Fantastic Four pictures from 20 years ago, or however long it was now. Which I thought was a good creative choice to keep the Mr. Fantastic stuff to an absolute minimum. I think you have to do that because, like you said, you can do that stuff on the page of a comic book, and there are just different things you can do on a comic book page that you can't do in an actual live action motion picture. And I feel like they at least understood that to some extent and did better with it than any of the other previous iterations of this film franchise have done.
Well, it's like the Green Lantern. It's very difficult to transfer some of the Green Lantern's work onto the big screen because it is so bombastic. It is so over the top.
And that probably has a lot to do with the fact that there's never been a good Green Lantern movie. It's probably the exact same thing.
Actually, I would make an argument that the last Superman film was the best Green Lantern movie.
It's a hell of a lot better than the Ryan Reynolds picture.
Or was that Thunderbolts? Or was that Thunderbolts? I can't remember.
No, you're right. It was Superman. Yeah.
Okay. Now we're gonna dig into casting for a second. I have, other than just a general malaise for Pedro Pascal, I have no hate for anybody in the Fantastic Four casting, and I really want to give serious daps to whoever it was that cast Mole Man, because that was flawless.
It was an interesting choice, including Mole Man, and like we were talking about last night, I think the main reason they included Mole Man was so that they would have a mechanism whereby they could get the population of the city down underground into a safe location, and then when Galactus is marauding through Manhattan, then he can knock down as many buildings as he wants with total moral impunity, and you don't have an outbreak of Man of Steel syndrome where everybody remembers what happened in Man of Steel. I mean, they just knocked down building after building after building, and there's thousands of casualties, and nobody ever mentions it. And that didn't go down very well with the audience. And I think that's been a cautionary tale to every picture that's been made since then, where you are trying to have a battle in a metropolis type location.
Right, and you also had the Marvels picture with the attack on New York. That also got a little bit frowned on for the amount of just general mayhem that was occurring in city streets to just average citizens. Like, it's been an issue for a while. This movie takes the time to explain why there's no backlash for the amount of damage that takes place, right? And also the use of Mole Man in that role is amazing because it solves all of your particular problems you would have in trying to evacuate a city that large. You don't have the bottlenecks on the bridges and tunnels in Manhattan because Mole Man has dug tunnels under the thing. But I want to go back to when Galactus shows up. Mole Man's done his thing. Everybody's straight. They're setting up the trap and everything. And he hops off of his little chair and steps off into New York Harbor and sinks waist deep. And then looks down at the puny Statue of Liberty. And then the next thing, he steps just one footstep up onto the bank, but he's still waist deep in the water. And there's a little bit of perspective issues going on there. And then when he steps up out of the water, he's still the same height as he was when he was standing in the water. But now he's got buildings around him to give you a bit of scale. And yes, I agree. I know Galactus can be any size he wants, but he doesn't generally do anything at all without some level of reason behind it. And so changing
but he is afraid to tangle with a 150-year-old French woman.
Right.
And you know what? That shot that we've got on the screen right now, I didn't notice it when I was actually watching the picture, but you know what that shot is? That shot is based on the Beatles' second appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show. That is
Nice.
exactly what that shot is.
Good Easter egg. Nice catch. So back to Mole Man. The one of the major points about Mole Man in the comics is he's always doing these nefarious, scandalous, underhanded things, but he's not doing it to take over the world. He's not doing it to bring Metropolis to its knees. He's not doing it because he hates people. He's doing it because he hates Reed Richards and he wants to make him suffer. And so every act that he does is specifically to belittle Reed Richards because they disagreed on some shit back when they were in college or something. There's some really petty reason. And when they bring the actor in, the guy comes in wearing his goggles, doing the Mole Man thing. He walks in and he's like, all right, Reed, listen, I want you to go ahead and start buttering my bread. Just go ahead. Tell me how great I am. My kung fu's better than yours. Put that butter layer thick. And
I loved the little hand motion. That was great.
Dude, it's beautiful. Reed actually has an emotional response on this, and the rest of the team drag him away and leave him in there talking to Sue. Sue turns and looks at him and is like, look, we really need your help. And he's like, what do you need? He's like, no, screw that guy. I'm not doing anything to help him. She's like, I don't want you to help him. I want you to help me and the city. I want to save the world. And he sits there for a second and he goes, okay, what do you need? I need the ability to move 13 million people outside of a danger zone, and I need to be able to do it in less than 4 hours. And he's like, how many buses you got? And he does it. He's not evil in the sense of world domination, galactic conquest, or even the Watchers. He's just a petty bitch with too much money, and I love it.
Well, you know what he reminds me of is the and maybe this is a weird out of left field reference, but he reminds me of the subterranean Martians from the Schwarzenegger picture. Why am I blanking on the name of it?
That's
That's Jesus Christ. Why am I blanking on it?
Total Recall.
Total Recall. That's the one. Yeah.
I
don't know why it reminded me of that, but it reminded me of that he's not necessarily a villain who has malevolent aims, but he views himself as the leader of an oppressed and marginalized population group that lives separately from your main population group.
So going back to the whole motif concept, all of the clothing and everything is directly out of the 1960s. Occasionally in the background, you see some sci-fi futuristic type equipment being used, but at the same time, it has not actually altered anything in the society whatsoever. It's an anachronism, and it doesn't really fit the story very well. And I get that they're trying to do a dated thing that is specifically in a given era, and then and then it's set, and it's so hard to explain. It's a freaking futuristic sci-fi about the past set in an era that's already taken place and yet hasn't been dealt with by the actual series itself.
Well, I think the demographic to whom they are trying to appeal with the visual design aesthetic of the movie is people who read Fantastic Four comic books during that time period in the middle 1960s. And I'm not sure if they realize that all those people are at least in their 70s now, but it seems like that's who they were trying to attract. And I think I want to say that belief is bolstered by what I think might have been a mildly politically subversive message in the narrative. And I don't want to get into that yet because we're still talking about the visual aesthetic. Obviously, the ground level aesthetic. I saw a lot of Captain America: First Avenger and a lot of the Dick Tracy movie.
Right, and there's a lot of Dick Tracy reference here.
Yeah, definitely.
You've got the watches, you've got the little notification systems, you've got the gadgets and stuff that are being put into the new spacesuits and things.
Everything is very, very analog.
Right. And I love it. I love it. Honestly, I love the motif. I really freaking enjoy it. I like, it's one of the reasons I like Fallout. is because
Yeah,
of
I mean,
the
I wouldn't call this a good movie, but that was my favorite thing about it was the visual style, that the mid-century retro futuristic, whatever you want to call it, was the thing I enjoyed the most.
right. Okay, so let's get into like the general plot of the movie, the explanation. Uh, they're having a little party, doing their thing, being the Fantastic Four. They're supposed to be doing some appearance on a television show to promote their brand and the piece of the world that has been achieved under their technology. And
Which
the
makes the choice of title a little bit strange. They call it Fantastic Four First Steps, but they don't show their first steps. I mean, unless that's in reference to the child, and maybe it
Yep,
is, but
yep.
all we get as far as the origins of the team is like a 7-minute, fairly clumsy exposition dump at the start of the first act. But go on with what you were going to say.
So they're standing around basically being their normal folk when all of a sudden the sky literally falls. And so does Johnny Torch. Johnny falls immediately in love with the very first object that's falling from the sky, which is the Silver Surfer. Now, this is
Who's
not
a
a
chick now?
homosexual. Hold on. This is not a homosexual relationship. She's a chick now. So there's that.
And you know, as much as I hate to say it, the gender swapping of the Silver Surfer didn't bother me as much as I thought it was going to bother me.
Yeah, I agree. The only issue I have with it has to do with the retcon. The only reason he's perceived as a male in the first place is because he's a different race that
Yeah.
is vaguely humaniform
Mhm.
and doesn't really have any obvious genitalia, but he does have a strong jaw and like the impression of flowing hair to an extent. So,
But it actually does add a little bit of flavor to the narrative that Johnny Storm thinks the chick Silver Surfer is hot.
sure. And I dig it. I can totally dig that. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
I can dig it too. I mean, and it's totally in keeping with his personality as it's traditionally been depicted. And like I said, I didn't mind it as much as I was expecting to mind it. So I have to give the picture that.
So ultimately, the difference that comes down in the Silver Surfer being a woman is negligible. It has virtually no effect on the actions of the Silver Surfer. But there's some scenes involving the Silver Surfer, and this is where I'm going to get into the power scale that we're discussing. To try to make sense of all of this, if the Silver Surfer showed up in Metropolis on a Tuesday and Superman ran out to go deal with it, the Silver Surfer, say that 7 times fast. Silver Surfer would snatch the soul out of Superman and whip him like a bad dog. He would literally just kill him. He'd take him up, take him outside of the realm of the yellow sun, and then beat him like a redheaded
Like a government mule.
Exactly. So it's kind of odd when you take that level of power. He's a shift, I think if I remember right, in the Marvel system, he was a shift Y power and shift X power, and Galactus is listed as beyond shift Z. Right? The power
I will
level
take your word for that.
The power levels you're involved with are like that of the Watchers and that of Madam Web and these types of things. If you wanted to, carrying the concept over into Marvel, over into Marvel, you're talking about a Silver Surfer is a world-ending threat by himself. Him and his surfboard,
right? Because he has been imbued with those powers by Galactus
and a few other things. He was sort of a superhero before he became the Silver Surfer, but sort of a super soldier type, kind of like Steve Rogers. But
and that little scene that they inserted, giving the Silver Surfer's backstory, I thought was pretty clumsy and not really necessary. I don't think we needed to know her backstory all that much, and I thought the way that Johnny Storm figured out her native language, you don't understand how languages work, guys. When did they discover the Rosetta Stone? Like 1803, and how long did it still take to decipher the language? Come on,
right? We're not. I don't even want to get in that. I can argue about the Rosetta Stone for 2 hours by itself.
I know,
but we're working along with the plot, and so there's a threat from space. Johnny goes up and tries to make contact with this. She basically says, "Look, everybody's going to die. Run, run. That's your only option. Run. If you can run, run now. If you can't, you're going to die here." And she leaves. And Johnny chases her out and finds out that he can't actually fly in space, apparently, which is interesting.
And I was glad that that is the one outer space thing in this movie that they actually dealt with realistically.
Right.
Which was refreshing.
So naturally,
the rest of the stuff, not so much.
So naturally, they have to go out into space and fight this new threat that they don't even understand. It's just some silver chick sailing around on her surfboard and yada, yada, yada. So they suit up, they get the ship, they fly out there with his 9.5-month pregnant wife riding shotgun to go deal with this new threat.
My God, that was the most obvious space vagina since Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and they had to insert the space penis right into the space vagina and right up. I'm not going to get any more graphic than that, but I mean, come on, I can't be the only one that saw that metaphor. It wasn't even much of a metaphor. It was too literal to be a metaphor. I mean, come on, it's a space penis and a space vagina. What are we doing here?
That's exactly what we're doing here. But it goes further than that, because there is this scene in the movie, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit to get this scene out of the way, because I think it leads to why the earlier scene takes place the way it does, right? Plot armor. So at one point, the spaceship is running away from the Silver Surfer, and the Silver Surfer is faster than a spaceship traveling at like barely sublight speed. Okay. Some magnitude of C. And they decide they're going to jump into a black hole in order to shake off the Silver Surfer and to make it, it'll, due to time dilation, it'll take months for her to escape. And so they'll have that much time to kind of deal with what's coming, because now they've seen Galactus in the ship that he's on and what he actually is. And there's just no fighting this thing.
And somehow we are going to fly this maneuver, and it's going to wind up with us right back at Earth, and just don't think about it.
But they use a trick that on no comic book ever would have actually worked. Sue, during the pregnancy, during the literal contractions that will lead to the birth of the child, makes the entire ship invisible, but not the carrying mechanism, right?
Yeah, the light speed rig.
Right. The light speed rig comes out of there, is left with no ship in it, because the ship that's in it is invisible. Naturally, they just back off and turn off course and leave the Silver Surfer chasing the now unloaded light speed rig. And this makes zero sense. Zero. None.
You're absolutely right.
Silver Surfer absolutely would have seen straight through that trash the very first time it happened, and might have even made some like laconic quip about it, while he ripped the freaking spaceship apart.
Yeah, it's a difficult tightrope to walk when you are trying to present an adversary as super powerful and super dangerous, and you have them get fooled by such a stupid trick that wouldn't actually fool them if they were as omniscient and powerful and as dangerous as you're trying to build them up to be. So yeah, that was a serious problem.
So that's kind of what I'm getting at is the power scales depicted here fall short of the power scales that should have been implied, right?
And oftentimes, as with many of these movies, the power scales are whatever we need, whatever the plot needs them to be in any given moment.
Exactly. And so we get back to inside the ship where she has her child, and the first human baby born in outer space from superhuman parents by a physicist in zero.
And it's upside down. The fetus is upside down. I'm sorry.
I was getting there.
I know. Couldn't help it. I'm sorry.
While making maneuvers at sublight speeds, and the child is born absolutely immaculate with zero muss, no fuss, and the chick didn't even poop during the contractions. So,
and there's absolutely no gross globules of fluid floating around the interior of the spaceship, and It's a shame everybody from Apollo 8 is dead now, because if those guys were still alive, they would look at that and say, yeah, right. Remember what happened with Frank Borman when he started pooping and diarrhea and on the way to the moon? Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
We spent half the mission cleaning up after Borman. I remember that one Bill Andrews interview where he was like, I'm looking at this undulating globule of red-black liquid, and the scientist in me just wants to study what it's doing, and then the human in me realizes it's a blob of Frank Borman's puke that I don't want to hit me in the face. So then I just got a napkin and cleaned it up.
Right. So this takes place. They come back to Earth, leaving the Silver Surfer dealing with whatever the heck's going on over there, which didn't really have very much of an effect other than to delay just the Silver Surfer in her activity, which was to kidnap Franklin Richards, the baby, which is apparently some sort of reborn elder outsider thing. Galactus recognizes it and offers to sacrifice this child to me in exchange for the entire Earth. Now, this sounds like a good deal on its surface, but when you realize that this just means that Galactus will make another pass around the universe eating stuff and we'll be back next time. That's all it means. It doesn't grant
the idea
safety for a
of
long period of time.
teleporting the planet to a different solar system, I was pretty disappointed in. And it was glossed over pretty superficially, as if,
well,
even if you could do that, there's a lot of complications that we're not getting into here. I mean, it's within 2% of the habitable zone. I mean, what star are we going to? What other stuff is in the orbit we need to be in? I mean, there's all kinds of considerations here that we're not talking about. I know it's just a superhero movie, but come on, that's just stuff I think about.
So, right, let's take a look at that. The plan to quote unquote defeat Galactus is to teleport the entire planet away using a just developed teleport mechanism that has to be constructed in, what was it, 3 weeks, 3 months, something like that.
Yeah, we're gonna build these bridges all over the planet, and we're gonna build them all in a few weeks, and then you know what I thought was actually gonna happen, because what happened was not the thing I thought that what was going to happen was that they wound up teleporting the planet to our universe, and then we would have like Earth 828 or whatever this was, and Earth 626 or whatever the baseline Earth is in the Marvel universe. And I thought it was going to be something like that, but it wasn't something like that, because they didn't even do the teleportation in the actual event.
Right. And I kind of thought that direction for a little bit too, when that whole discussion was going on. But it's ironic because at the time, and I don't know if there was some thing in the movie that triggered me out to this, but at the time, my question came up while I was watching. I actually paused it right there at that moment and thought about it. It was like, well, hell, it had to have taken 6 months to build all those bridges, and Homeboy flatlined the entire city of New York and most of the eastern seaboard to teleport an egg. Where's the juice going to come from for all this? And so get this, and this is the part I don't understand. They go into power saving mode. The entire world.
Oh God, I hated that part. You're all just going to have to stop using electricity. I hated that part so much. Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that, because I hated it.
The reason that is such a cop-out of a plot point MacGuffin is because you can't really store power like that. It's not like we take 32 megajoules of power and we can just save, 30 megajoules of power by turning off as many lights as possible, and we get to stack all of that power up like a big pile of batteries. That's not how that works. It
was like the worst case scenario of climate cultists not understanding how energy actually works.
Right. It was like you could just plug the hole that it's like they believe that the energy is leaking into our society, and they plug the hole to store up more.
Like, if everybody just turns their lights off, then all the electricity builds up in reserve, right? So we're golden. Come on, guys.
And that's not at all how it works now. That wasn't how it worked then, and that's not how it works in the Marvel universe.
Not even in a fantasy universe, that's not how it works, and you can't pretend that's how it works, because that's a cop-out. That's going to impact the ability of the viewer to suspend his or her disbelief and enjoy the rest of the picture.
Right. So as far as it goes, ultimately, and I don't want to do a big spoiler thing about the end of it. I'm going to let that kind of go. But uh, it's already decided that, I mean, I've made it clear that there is no possibility, there is no future where Galactus doesn't achieve his goal. Uh, However, the choice comes down to the woman, Silver Surfer, and the fact that she chooses basically to protect a baby rather than serve Galactus. And that issue is an issue all its own, because the very second, first of all, the Silver Surfer can't do anything that Galactus doesn't permit. And the second he attempts to, he loses all of his powers and is bored.
And
So
that, go ahead.
go ahead. You're
No,
good.
that I was just going to say that kind of goes to where my theoretical thinking wound up being regarding the narrative as I sat with it and thought about it a little more. In addition to the fact that we are obviously trying to market this film to older people who have a nostalgic attachment to the Fantastic Four comic books from the 1960s. That's part of it. And as we know, for the average casual fan, the story of the Marvel Universe ended 6 years ago with Avengers Endgame. They even called it the Battle of Earth. The good guys won. Tony Stark died. That was the end of it. And everything that has happened since then, every movie, every streaming show, they've kind of gotten returns that have been more and more and more diminishing to the point where it's just a string of flops now. And the thing I'm wondering is, were they trying to regain audience goodwill by not only appealing to people with pleasant memories of the 1960s, but I wonder also if there was a subtly pro-life message they were trying to convey with a woman saying, no, I'm not willing to give up my baby just to make my life a little bit easier. That was the thing I couldn't get out of my head afterward, and I wonder what your thoughts on that might be.
So I wondered about that too. I hadn't really gotten to a conscious like consideration of it, but it did cross my mind at the time that, you know, if this had been made in like 5 years ago, that kid would have been aborted and they never would have mentioned it. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think I wonder if that's what we're looking at is the difference between 5 years ago and today, as far as a studio realizing its set of missteps in recent years, because I don't think we ever would have seen a story like that in 2020. I don't think there's any chance in hell.
True. And the story would have been very different and very message, right? This is
Yes.
another case of identity politics not being beaten over the head, right? They're not slapping you in the face with it. There's all the diversity, there's all of the equality, there's all of the equity, there's all of the things without any of the actual effects that these things bring into a society, you know.
Precisely.
So it's never mentioned that that there's an overwhelming number of white people that are doing certain things. But then if you look at the people who's in charge, they're all black, women, Asians.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
there's
We
there's a
well,
scene. Go ahead.
oh, you're not allowed to make a Marvel movie if you don't have a strong, powerful woman of color in charge. I mean, that goes without saying.
Right. And so there's a scene in there where they get a view of the world leaders, right? And
Yeah.
there's
Yep.
like three white people in the room, and
Whole bunch of
that,
Africans, whole bunch of Wakandans.
but then like as far as the leaders themselves, but then a whole bunch of the pages and translators and stuff, a bunch of them are white. You know,
Yes.
that's where they
Yes.
make up the numerical differences in extras, you know.
Yeah,
Which I
absolutely. And every street level shot of citizens looking amazed and scared and frightened or whatever, you've got your perfect diversity quotient.
right.
Got
And
your whites and your blacks and your Latinos and your Asians and your every one of those shots is so carefully composed to be just right in the diversity sweet spot. And that's how you can tell it's Marvel in the third decade of the 21st century.
So I don't necessarily have an issue with it, and it's because of how it's utilized. They don't beat you over the head with it. It's just a feature of the world. It's just a background bit. It's not its own character. It has no utilization in plot. It doesn't enter into anything with the with any part of the story. It's just set dressing, and that's fine. I have no issue with that.
It is fine, and it's a thing you can do when you decide to set the narrative in an alternate universe that isn't necessarily our universe, because maybe their 1960s were totally different than our 1960s, and that's fine, and I accept that.
Okay, so we're going to go to the clobbering timeline. In the universe, in canon, right? Inside the movie. Its Clobbering Time was written by an artist who did a comic book about the Fantastic Four in a universe where the Fantastic Four are actual people. And the whole It's Clobbering timeline was created by this comic book artist. And the Thing hates it. But Johnny Torch loves it. It's great. He wishes he could have a tagline like that. It's the best.
The whole movie trying to get the Thing to say his signature catch line.
Right. And he does. He finally does. And
he eventually does. Right when the climax of the picture demands it.
There's a payoff to this, so I don't really want to spoil that too much, but it is very well placed and very well done. And it does involve like the Fantastic Four working together as a team and dropping that line.
Yes, because if we're going to have a Fantastic Four movie, that's how the third act has to end. It's by figuring out that we all need to work together, and then we can defeat the cosmic supervillain, because there's not really any other thing you can do.
So Galactus is after the baby. He comes to Earth to get the baby. They set up this big diabolical trap with the only gate bridge unit that's still functioning, which is, of course, in Metropolis or Manhattan or whatever you want to call it.
Right in the goddamn middle of Times Square, as luck would have it.
Yep, because that's mathematically exactly where.
It's not like in the middle of the Kalahari Desert or someplace boring. It's right in the middle of Manhattan. God damn it.
So Mole Man shows up. They do the evacuations. Galactus shows up, waddles past the Statue of Liberty, and does the one thing that I freaking respect the writers to do, but he does it way late. They pull off the fast switch. They got the baby there for bait. They're doing the classic, I'll never let you take my son line. I'll send him somewhere else like Superman before I let that happen,
Uh-huh.
And of course they pull a fast one. They bait and switch him. And right after they bait and switch him, I kind of didn't like how they did it, because
I didn't either.
They literally basically snap on one side and get him to turn his head and then swap him out, which is kind of silly.
I know. It's like the same way you distract a toddler.
Exactly. Jingle some keys over here, and it was something that should not have even affected Galactus. He shouldn't have even noticed it. It was not even a splinter under his nail. Nothing.
Yes.
And yet,
if he is as dangerous of a world-threatening threat as you have built him up to be, it should not be that easy to distract him.
Right. And so he gets distracted, looks away, looks back, poof, the baby's gone, but he immediately sees that, the bait's been switched, and turns and looks and finds where it's at and changes the whole course of the rest of this movie. Now, I don't want to go too much deeper into the grand finale of all of this because of the whole spoiler issue, but we can now break down some of the what I think are funnier plot points in the film. What was your giggliest part?
Oh, what was my giggliest part? I love the fact that Reed Richards had a curvy chalkboard where he did all his calculations. I loved the commitment to the visual aesthetic of the movie. And I don't know if that counts as a giggly thing, but I did like that they were so committed to it. I don't know if I've ever seen so many radial walls with wood paneling, but each time I saw one, I kind of loved it, because like I said before, it's like I was watching Help. I'm watching a Beatles movie. I guarantee you they watched that movie before they did these set designs. What was your giggliest part?
I think it might have been the scene where this is stupid. I'm a sadist. I'm going to go ahead and tell you this, but it's the scene where the Silver Surfer and Johnny finally end up face to face in like a race. But like I said before, and this is a scene that never should have happened. It was when Johnny's flying through and he's playing the Silver Surfer's language over all the speakers in Manhattan, and the Silver Surfer's chasing him. First of all, the Silver Surfer can go from here to an entirely different planetary system in a matter of hours. The level of speed this individual has access to leaves Johnny so far behind that obviously this individual is not actually chasing Johnny. Why she's flying that way and doing the thing, beyond me. Another issue that made me giggle real hard, and it's just plot. This is all plot developed drama. This is all artificial suspense. Is the Silver Surfer getting smacked around and bouncing off of walls and stuff? The Silver Surfer isn't solid unless it decides to be so.
Yeah, because we've established the fact that she can teleport through things. So what the hell?
It's like Vision. It's like trying to have a fist fight with Vision.
Yeah.
This thing is so much more intelligent than you and has so much additional power and the ability to alter phase, change dimensions, alter light output. That's why it's a mirror. That's why.
And so inevitably, it just winds up descending into the capabilities of the characters are whatever the scene and the narrative needs them to be in this given moment. And yeah, that was disappointing.
And that made me laugh at probably some inopportune moments. Maybe it's not the things I should have, found funny, but it is.
Speaking of funny, do you want me to read out the Biden fictional chaotic rant?
Let's do this thing.
Folks, hold on. I'm trying to get my thoughts lined up here like ducks in a parade, but they're all waddling off toward different snack stands. Just give me a second while I wrangle them back. All right, Trump, Donald. The guy walks around like he owns the patent on loudness. Every time he opens his mouth, I swear, the air itself winces. You ask him a question, he answers with a story about a building he sort of remembers owning or a number he invented on the drive over. Half the time I hear him talk, I start wondering if somebody swapped out my notes with a takeout menu. I'm up here flipping through pages and suddenly I'm reading about eggplant parm and I'm thinking, well, this still makes more sense than whatever he's saying, and he keeps bragging like a broken car alarm that only has one setting, and it's me. You ever hear him? He talks like he's trying to win an argument with his own reflection. I've seen funhouse mirrors with a steadier grasp on reality. The man treats truth like it's a raccoon rummaging in his trash. He sees it, he hollers, he chases it away with a broom, then he tells everyone the raccoon apologized personally and endorsed him. And look, I'm trying to stay on track here, but every time I mention him, my train of thought jumps rails, runs through a cornfield, and comes back dragging a scarecrow that looks vaguely disappointed in me. Where was I? Right, Trump. That guy, the fellow with the hair situation that looks like it's trying to escape extradition. I'm telling you, folks, if we could bottle the noise he generates and use it to power the grid, every toaster in America would be glowing like a small sun. We'd be set for winners until the heat death of the universe. Anyway, point is, we've got stuff to do. Real stuff, and we can't keep stopping the national conversation every time he decides to release another episode of the Trump Chronicles. Facts are optional. Moving on. Somebody hand me the next page. I think this one's just a grocery list. Why did I write 3 different kinds of pretzels? End quote.
Sounds great, dude. I love it. We might have to make that like a thing somewhere from now on, like just a random fake Joe Biden.
It actually escalates further from there. I mean, I can save it for next week if the people are interested.
It is funny. I do enjoy it.
It's better than Harmony Unleashed. That's for damn sure.
Oh God, dude, I got cringe cancer from making that. Dude, your voices were so great. It's so wonderful. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, ChatGPT really has come a long way. You have to give it that, I guess.
Yes, sir. So, anything else on the docket that we need to cover in the last 5 minutes?
Um, I don't know. Is there any? Are we finished with the movie? The thing that jumped out at me about the movie immediately after I was finished watching it is that I kind of get the impression, as we often get the impression when we watch these latest Marvel movies, that they were shooting this thing without a completed script, because there is so little that happens in the second act of this picture. Like the entire movie is a sequence in the first act and a sequence in the third act. And my God, the whole middle is so much like the thing I often talk about: walking and talking in hallways. And granted, the hallways are very nice looking. They have radial walls and lots of wood paneling, but still too much walking and talking in hallways. I feel like you're just trying to fill up time so that we can get to the climactic battle scene. And we're trying to bridge the gap between that and the first battle, extraterrestrial battle scene, and then we use the black hole to escape, and then the picture could be about 35 minutes long and you wouldn't lose anything.
So, you, yeah, the second act is largely, which often is the case in these types of films, largely exposition and an attempt to show the danger that has reached Earth and the level of threat that is extant. And yet, in this time period, the closest they get to showing Galactus's power is him devouring a planet,
Well, and
which
you
is
know
a
what
pretty good
lady
start.
you know what Lady Curmudgeon blurted out that I totally agreed with her about? She said, "Why the hell would he walk into the press conference and tell everybody exactly what Galactus said about giving him the kid? Why would you just blurt that out? Why would you say that?
Because
There's
it's
no
Reed
reason why you need
Richards.
to be honest about that, dude."
Because it's Reed Richards, and he's autistically honest. Uh, if I remember right, I don't remember any event in the history of the comics of Reed Richards actually lying. He withheld information on occasion, actually all the time. He has no problem with withholding information.
And
So
this would have been a good time for that. Just withhold
yes,
that information. Just act like nothing happened and you don't know what you're gonna do. Yeah, it was.
you could do
I feel like they inserted that just so the next portion of the movie could happen, which is not
yes.
good narrative construction.
And then you add the baby. And like I said, this is a reincarnated ancient elder from outside of the universe that has taken root in this child. This child is the born think Star-Lord. Think Star-Lord's dad, right? And
And
from
it's just purely because his mother and father happened to be cosmically superpowered from their previous incident that they had.
I don't think so. I think part of it has to do with the fact that they were actually there is a series of comics unrelated to one another that implied that the whole event that took place that made them superheroes were a byproduct of some activity that Galactus did 30,000 years ago or something like that. And all of that energy stuff that happened that changed their DNA and made them created the perfect scenario to create this child, and that is why it happened, not because Galactus meant for it to, but because there was a possibility of something like this happening, and so he kept doing it, trying to create something. And it never says this, but this is sort of the implication: something that he could eat that would actually be fulfilling, like an ancient
Oh,
deity, right?
okay, I
And
got
so
you.
that's why he was so hung up on getting the child, was not so much that he wanted a child to take over for him, but that he could consume him, or he could displace himself as being the world or universe devourer and leave that to the child's responsibility, allowing him to escape the hunger of being the creature that he is.
And I got one more little funny for you before we go. There's a moment at the end where we think that Sue Storm has died because she has expended all of her life energy in defeating Galactus, and then Reed Richards comes and tries tries to give her what we would call CPR. And my son says, did they have CPR in the 60s? Is that accurate? And I said, well, yeah, they did, but they used to call it the kiss of life. They changed the name somewhere along the way to make it a little bit less sexy sounding, because it's really not a sexy thing. So I'm glad they changed the name.
It's really not. And with that, I'm going to close out and leave you to do your most wondrous thing. Thank you, everyone, for coming by. I appreciate it. Much love, Sasquatch.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks ever so much for joining us here on the Blast Radius tonight. We sure do have a great time spending these 90 minutes with you every Sunday evening, which we will do again next Sunday evening, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Don't miss it. Thanks for everybody who came. Thanks for everybody who gave a super chat and a super sticker and a super whatever the hell else was given. I do very deeply appreciate it. So does Mr. Sasquatch. I hope you have a great day tomorrow and an edifying day after that, and just a really fantastic rest of your week. See you next time. Do not comply. Get off my lawn.